Brandon here from One-to-One Fitness and Fit Body Bootcamp. We're going to chat today a little bit about how many calories we should be taking in, what we need to account for, what we need to do based off of the goals that we have. One of the very important things to be looking at when we're taking into account how many calories to take in is our BMR, which is our basic metabolic rate. This is how many calories we need to take in a 24-hour period to metabolize all of our lean body mass, to make sure we have proper function of our organs, of our digestive system, of our brain. Very, very important and very vital to obviously day-to-day life. And why it's so important, if we are taking in below that BMR, if we're underneath that, that baseline amount of calories, our body has to go within ourselves and make a change. Because we're not getting enough calories externally through food, our body will have to make a change off of our BMR because now we don't have enough calories to ensure that all of those functions that I talked about get carried out. When we look at our lean body mass being about, say, the size of a small baseball, and a pound of body fat being the size of, say, a tangerine or your hand sprayed out, 1 pound of lean body mass takes about 35 to 50 times more calories to recover than our body fat. Our body fat takes maybe a calorie per pound. Now, why this is important, if we're not taking in enough calories to recover all of that lean body mass, and it already puts such a strain on our body and takes up so many calories to regenerate, that's going to be one of the first things that's going to start getting deteriorated. Our body fat is so easy to keep that our body wants to last as long as possible, and it knows holding on to body fat will allow it to do so. We can lose a little bit of lean body mass and still be able to carry out day-to-day tasks because that lean body mass can become stronger instead of having to carry more of. Now, obviously, there's a lot of extreme consequences to this, but hopefully we're not at that point. So looking at our BMR, if we're underneath that, this is where our metabolism is going to be slowing down. This is when we're going to be going after a lot more lean body mass. And for some of you that maybe have tried really calorically restricted diets, this is where, from point A to point B, we're losing weight, and we're definitely going to be losing some body fat through that. But you always hear of people rebounding, but even rebounding worse. And at point A, us just sitting here talking, we're actually burning more calories than we are at point B because of that loss of lean body mass. So when we start looking at our BMR, you'll have the appendices or that equation to be able to figure out this number. This is an extremely important number that we can make sure that we can take in a day to make sure all of everything's functioning properly, we're recovering our lean body mass, and we can be actually moving towards the goals that we have. I'm going to make a little bit of an example here. I'm going to say the average female is going to be about 1,600 calories for the BMR. Now this again is 24 hours of you doing absolutely nothing, and I know you typically get out of bed in a day, so we need to account for everything else that's happening. The actual digestion of food is going to come into play, and typically this is about 10 to 15% of what your BMR is, and what I'm going to say for this example is it's going to be about 200 calories that we're going to account for. This is breaking down the food, moving it through the digestive system, and the thermogenic effects that come from it. Then we're going to go into kind of our standard daily living. This is you getting out of bed, showering, walking the stairs, household chores, work. Now, when it comes to work, what is happening, right? If you're landscaping, if you're working at a desk, there's going to be a difference in your calories. So we typically rate it on a low, moderate to high, high being maybe that landscaper, moderate being someone that sits at a desk, and then on the low end of the scale, someone that doesn't do really a whole lot in a day. Typically, people are in that moderate range, which would account for about 400 to 500 calories. In this example, I'm going to use that and say about 400 calories is going to be taken out by that. Then it comes down to exercise. I don't expect that you work out absolutely every day, but what we need to take into account, and what I'm going to use in this example, is someone that comes about 4 to 5 times to the Fit Body Bootcamp and doesn't do anything those other days, the 2 to 3 other days. What we need to look at is how many calories we expend in, say, that 4 to 5 sessions, and then average it out over the 7 days. So in this example, I'm going to say it's going to be about 300 calories expended on average through a week. And the reason why we want to look at it that way, we shouldn't be basing our calories around, okay, I'm doing activity today, I'm not doing activity tomorrow, so I'm going to be taking in less. After a Fit Body Bootcamp class, for example, there's the afterburn effect, which you may have heard, and this is where we have a 24-hour period after our actual session where our heart rate's going to be a little bit higher than any other type of exercise. And this allows us to burn more calories through that time period. Also, after exercise like that, it could take 24 to 48 hours to actually recover from that. So, on the days off, do we want to shortchange our body through the recovery process and through the areas where we're actually going to be burning fat? If we're shortchanging it, we're ultimately affecting possibly our BMR, affecting that lean body mass that needs to be recovered and repaired, and possibly not actually working towards that weight loss goal. So we're going to take an average of that amount of calories through the process. Now, if I can do my calculations properly here, we're going to actually figure out how many calories that we actually expend in a day. And let's say that's about 2,500 calories. This number probably seems a little bit high. What this number should mean is if you're taking in 2,500 calories, we should be maintaining. Nothing should be losing, we shouldn't be gaining. And for a lot of you looking at that probably scares you a little bit, thinking there's no way that I'm going to actually not gain weight in that process. 2,500 calories can be eaten a million different ways. We're going to talk a little bit about managing blood sugar levels later on, and this is going to help with that number. But this also has to take into account that smaller meals 5 to 6 times throughout the day, eating healthier foods, make sure we're getting enough hydration. Exercise is obviously in this equation, what we're doing day to day. So from there, most people obviously have different types of goals. When they come to us, maybe it's weight loss, maybe it is maintenance, maybe it is performance or gaining lean body mass. When it comes to weight loss, we're going to be looking off of a deficit of this number. So we're going to want to be taking in less off of this number because we know now if we burn 2,500 calories and we're taking less calories than that 2,500, our body has to go within itself again and make a change. But if this number that we're actually taking in is above our BMR, we know that our lean body mass is being regenerated. We know that we have proper function of our organs, digestive system, and brain to make sure that we keep all of that, those vital functions and those vital organs and lean body mass, everything regenerated. So, for someone that is maintaining, as we already said, would be very close to how many calories they expend in a day. For an individual that's looking more performance-wise or to try and gain lean body mass, we'd actually be looking to be a little bit higher than how much we expend. As we talked about earlier, how many calories it takes to actually regenerate that pound of lean body mass. If we were trying to gain lean body mass, we need to have a little bit of a surplus in order to do so. So we're going to go into this scenario and we're going to say that it's actually weight loss that our goal is. And we're going to be looking for about 20 to 25% less than what our total calories expended is. And what we're going to look at in this sense is that 25%. When we knock that off, we're going to be approximately 1,800 calories. Again, making sure we are above that 1,600 calories to make sure everything is operating properly. We're below that total calories expended, so now we have about a 700 calorie deficit that's going to be working in our favor as we lose weight. To give you a sense of what this all means and what this number can actually stand for, if this was, say, 500 calories and we had that consistently for a week, that would be a total of 3,500 calories, which would be about a pound of body fat. Now, being in this scenario, 700 calories, we're going to be looking at a pound to a pound and a half of body fat that can be actually lost in a week. And again, a pretty conservative number, but this is what we're ultimately looking for, is that deficit to build over time to get you to where you need to be. As you'll see, and I believe it's chapter 4 in our 48-hour fat loss manual, the adjustments that we go through in the process when individuals do hit plateaus or progress slows down. Now, our BMR shouldn't be affected too much when it comes to body fat being lost because it doesn't take a whole lot to actually regenerate. So even if we lost 10 to 20 pounds, this number shouldn't be ultimately affected, and that would mean that our total calories intaked, it wouldn't be affected by it as well. If we were losing a lot of lean body mass, yes, that would be a problem, and that would be something that we need to solve. When it comes to the different types of adjustments, I believe the very first one's actually just bringing our calories down. So if we were bringing that 1,800 calories down 100 calories, we're at 1,700, which again is still above that 1,600, but we're building that deficit to be bigger to allow us to try and burn more calories throughout the week. From there, exercise, cardio might be added, maybe you're adding another session. What we're trying to do in this case is build up our total calories expended, making that number larger. If this number is larger, off of how much we actually take in, our deficit again is going to be larger. So as we go through, digestion, there's going to be an adjustment that's going to talk about, changing some of your, maybe more simple carbohydrates or even complex carbohydrates into fibrous vegetables, or taking away some of your carbohydrates and replacing it with proteins. The reason being is our fibrous vegetables, our proteins, our essential fats, as we'll talk about a little bit more in the managing your blood sugars video, takes up more calories to actually break down. They're bigger molecules, they slow down the system from actually having blood sugar enter the system, but ultimately this number is going to go up, again, affecting how many calories we expend. So as you can see, lots of math that's going to go into this, and you'll have one of the appendices that's going to look kind of similar to this. Mine's maybe a little bit more chicken scratch, but it breaks it down exactly how we go into, with our personal training clients, with our Fit Body Bootcamp clients, how many calories they should be taking in. So I would have you actually start looking at that appendices and figure out, okay, based off of my height, my age, my weight, what my BMR would be about, and then work through these steps to actually get to where I'm at and figuring out, okay, this is how many calories I should be taking in. In the next video, we'll talk a little bit more about how to actually take in those calories. Because ultimately, if that 1,800 calories is, just all sugar or very high in fats and high in carbohydrates, there's going to be a problem, and it's not going to be working in your favor. Hope this has helped. Thanks for your time.